Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. One of our listeners recently reached out with some pretty powerful material they thought we should look at.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. They pointed us toward the Murli teachings, and specifically the one from April 8th, 2025.
Okay, yeah.
And this was all in light of that, well, really disturbing incident that happened near the temple.
Right, the assault and everything.
Exactly. It's heavy stuff. And so what we really want to do in this deep dive is, well, sort of unpack the core spiritual wisdom that's within this Murli. See if it can shed some light on such darkness.
Yeah,
And maybe even more importantly, I think, offer a perspective on how to move forward from something like this.
I think that's a really important approach, actually. We have to be mindful of the gravity of what happened while we explore what the Murli offers,
Mm.
that deep understanding. Because at its heart, the Murli, which many see as like a source of divine wisdom, especially in this confluence age, it really focuses on how we see ourselves and others, I think.
Okay, so let's go straight to that core there. What's that key teaching that the Murli emphasizes above all else?
Well, it all comes down to the principle of soul consciousness. Basically recognizing that we're not just these physical bodies.
Right.
We are eternal souls. And that goes for everyone around us, too.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty fundamental shift in how we see things, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm.
It might seem simple at first, but it has huge implications.
So how does that basic idea, being soul conscious, how does that connect to the kind of suffering that we saw in that tragic situation?
Well, the really talks about time as being cyclical
Mm.
and says that right now we're at the very end of the Iron Age, or Kali Yuga. It's a time when, well, souls become more tamaprohan, basically less pure, more degraded.
Wow.
It's a pretty unsettling thought, especially when you think about that assault. That's like a brutal expression of this Tamaprahan state, right?
Mm.
Driven by things like unchecked lust and just cruelty.
Yeah, I mean, it really is sobering, but understanding that is just the first step, right? So what does the Murli suggest we do to actually move beyond this cycle?
Well, soul consciousness comes back into play here. It says the source of true soul consciousness is God, the Father of all souls. It's not something we can get from another person, no matter how wise they are.
Mhm.
It's about actively choosing to see beyond the physical and recognizing that spark of the divine in everyone, that we're all children of that same Father.
Okay, so instead of seeing man or woman, we see soul, just like ourselves. But how much power can that shift in perspective really have? I mean, can it really stop something so horrific from happening?
I think it has immense potential. When you deeply understand that we're all these sacred souls, all connected as children of the divine,
Yeah.
it cultivates respect, empathy, responsibility. It makes harming another person almost unthinkable because you see their spiritual essence.
It's like you can't dehumanize someone if you recognize that shared spiritual core.
Exactly. And, even just that simple awareness, the thought, I am a soul, and the person in front of me is also a soul,
Mm-hmm.
it can start to weaken those negative impulses we all have, like lust, anger, greed, the things that often fuel violence.
Right, right. And speaking of, I mean, the Murli seems to single out certain vices, doesn't it? Like lust, that seems to get a lot of attention.
Oh, absolutely. It names lust as the main enemy on the path to becoming spiritually pure.
Yeah.
It talks about the deities of the Golden Age being conquerors of attachment and conquerors of lust. Their peace and harmony was linked to mastering this.
Their inner state was reflected in the outer world.
Right, exactly. And if you look back at that terrible incident, acts like that, like sexual assault, it's a direct result of that unrestrained lust, according to the Murli.
So then how does it tell us to deal with something so, well, powerful and ingrained as lust?
Well, it offers a practical method, daily remembrance, yoga of God, the supreme soul. By connecting with that pure source of love, we strengthen our resolve. It's like we're filling our minds with positive energy.
So it's about actively cultivating that inner space.
Yes, and doing it consistently. Even a little bit each day can make a huge difference over time.
Makes sense. If your mind is filled with that purity, it's harder for those negative impulses to take hold.
Exactly.
It's interesting, though, that it's not all about, pure spiritual detachment from the world, right? It also talks about practical things, everyday life.
You're right, it does. And it gives what sounds like kind of contradictory advice at first.
Oh.
It says to have unlimited disinterest in the old corrupt world, but to still use common sense in our daily lives.
That's interesting.
It's like it recognizes that the world has become this Tamapradhan place. There's a real potential for harm. We have to be cautious.
So how do you reconcile those two things? Detachment and the need for practical safety.
I think the key is that spiritual wisdom doesn't replace common sense. It actually enhances it. Being soul conscious means being clear-sighted, responsible,
Yeah.
not naive. Like that incident near the temple shows just how important basic safety is.
Right.
Not traveling alone in unsafe areas, telling people where you are, contacting authorities if you feel threatened.
It's about using your awareness to protect yourself and others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Spiritual understanding should make our common sense stronger, help us navigate a difficult world.
That makes sense. And it leads to another question, which is how we respond to something like this as a society. The immediate reaction is often a call for justice, for punishment. Does the Murli align with that? Or does it offer a different view?
Well, it presents God's knowledge as this blueprint for transforming the whole planet. It talks about moving from a state of hell filled with violence and cruelty to a state of heaven,
Oh, okay.
a place defined by harmony and respect. And it says that by following this guidance, souls become sadapradhan, more elevated, more virtuous, and that brings about a new era of righteousness.
So by changing ourselves, we change the world.
Exactly. And it acknowledges that it's natural to want punishment for those who commit these acts, for justice to be served,
Yeah.
but it goes deeper. It points to the need for a change in hearts and minds, because that's how we prevent these things from happening in the first place.
So it's not about excusing the act, but about addressing the root cause.
Exactly. It's saying that real lasting change in society has to start with individual spiritual growth. When we cultivate empathy, when we recognize that spiritual connection with each other, that's when the foundation for violence and exploitation crumbles.
It's about creating a world where those actions become unthinkable because people's inner state has transformed.
Yes.
Now, the Murli also talks a lot about this present time, calling it the confluence age. What makes this period so special?
Well, it describes it as this unique moment, the age of transformation, when the Supreme Father is directly giving us spiritual wisdom. It's like a once-in-a-cycle chance to purify our lives, to overcome those inner vices, and then to help others do the same.
So in the face of all this darkness, the Murli is offering a path to light.
Exactly. It's an invitation for everyone to reconnect with the divine, purify their minds, become examples of compassion, integrity, and peace.
And the more people embrace these teachings, the greater the chance of reducing violence and offering healing to those who've been hurt.
Right. It suggests that a widespread shift to these principles, understanding our spiritual identity, practicing remembrance, committing to inner purity,
Yeah.
would lead to less violence and would offer real solace and healing to those who've suffered.
It sounds like the Murli doesn't just show us the problem, but it actually offers a solution.
Absolutely. It helps us understand the root causes of suffering, and it gives us a way to heal, both individually and collectively.
It's a powerful perspective. So to recap, the Murli provides a way to break free from those negative things that hold us back, especially lust and anger. And it does that through remembering God and cultivating soul consciousness.
Yes, and that has a double impact.
How so?
It fosters respect, self-control, compassion in each person. That helps prevent harm.
Okay, that's the individual level.
Right. And then on a larger scale, when more people adopt this soul-conscious view and become more morally aware, it creates an environment where those harmful actions become much less likely.
So ultimately, the Murli is important because it tackles the very core of human suffering, our own imperfections, our misidentifications.
Yes.
And it gives us a practical way to transform ourselves and the world around us through inner purity and right action. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
And with that, we leave you to ponder this. Imagine if everyone truly saw each other as souls, not just bodies. How would that change our interactions, our society, our world? It's a powerful question to consider. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.